Hello there, Outliers. My name is Niiamah Ashong, and welcome to the Outliers Edge Roundtable, where we are bringing in extraordinary individuals, extraordinary leaders, and seeing how they navigate continuing to level up their game while creating impact, income, and staying in integrity with who they are. Today we have three amazing outliers here who are playing the game, and I cannot wait for you to get to know them and to explore how they navigate the world around them and shape it so that it works for them. Let's get a chance to for you to meet each of them here. I'm going to start off with Alex, and then we're going to go to Meg, and then we're going to go to Keisha. Alex, do you mind saying hi to Outliers and letting us know about the game you are currently playing?
Yeah, hey guys. So my name's Alex. I'm married to the next person. Just to kind of throw that out there. But I guess a little bit of my background. I worked in education for a long time, probably about 20 years, and throughout that entire time, my wife and I lived in the poorest zip code in the state of Wisconsin. So when I was 22 and she was 24, we thought we could position ourselves in a way like every or many 22 and 24-year-olds do, to make a difference in the world. And then you quickly find out that it's not how actually things work at all. You make a difference by showing up every day. And so we've woken up nearly every day in the poorest part of the state of Wisconsin, and learned a lot about what it means to live in the inner city. We do a podcast called the 53206 cast, which tries to change the narrative around inner city spaces. And Meg and I have conversations about things we've seen in the neighborhood, how we interpret it, how we think other people might interpret it, and try to set the record straight.
Well, hello, I'm Meg Bruzan. Also help do the 53206 cast. And yeah, I love the opportunity to being able to reflect on inner city spaces and just some of the things that we might judge at first, and then really look into it and think, okay, that we shouldn't be judging. We should be looking at this with more of an empathetic lens. And so it's a great opportunity every week for me just to be able to kind of look inside and see, all right, what things do I need to really relearn, or what things do I need to just take a second look at. So yeah, just excited to be here, excited for this conversation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kisha Alire. I am the owner of the Baddie Activation podcast, and I've been doing the podcast for about 2 years now. And the podcast itself was really born out of a traumatic event that happened in my life. And we'll probably get into that later in the conversation. But at that time, I recognized a need to be able to provide additional resources and help to women. And even now I've learned that, men also listen to my podcast. It's a personal development around law of attraction, manifestation, and self-love. So the reason behind the podcast is I wanted to be able to provide tools and mindset tricks to women who battle with self-love, personal development, limiting beliefs. We talk about a lot of stuff on the podcast.
Well, I'm really grateful all of you are here. I want to dive in here because each of you have a larger mission that you have out that's driving you, and I want to just get to like what got you started. What made you say, "Hey, not only do I recognize that there's a problem or an opportunity, but I am going to be the one that steps in to do something with it." Keisha, can we start with you on that?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it high level here. About 5 or 6 years. So for one, I'm in corporate America. So I still have a 9 to 5 as I'm doing my podcast and coaching on the side. And so I've always practiced personal mindset. I read a book, Mindset by Carol Dweck, many, many years ago, learned about the growth mindset. And based upon everything I learned in the book, it really allowed me to flourish in my corporate world. And so I felt like I've always had a very, strong mindset. So about 5 or 6 years ago, my oldest daughter, we uncovered, unfortunately, she was a victim of sexual abuse. And if you look at the statistics with sexual abuse, it's a very high percentage where it's someone that the person knows, or potentially someone in the family. And unfortunately, that was our situation. And it was really sad because when we confronted the people involved, we were looked at as liars and no one believed, the victim. And it was more than one victim. So we ended up actually going to the police, and it ended up being a very long trial. I mean, we were in court testifying. I mean, you think about all the stuff you see on TV, like that was our situation. So going through this process, not just with my daughter, but it opened up my eyes to victims of any type of abuse, the uphill battle that they have to speak their truth and get, to get justice for the crime that was against them. So I just remember going through the process feeling that there wasn't a lot of resources for my daughter and the victim, and I wanted to be part of the change. And at first I remember thinking, well, maybe I need to go into law enforcement. Maybe I need to be, a lawyer, or, be one of these fighters that are in the justice system. But where I was at with my career, my age, my life, I was like, I can't do that. So, I leaned into my mindset, and I leaned into the mindset work that I was using going through that process and how it helped me. And I wanted to be able to provide that to especially young women, and to do it in a way that's free to them. And that's really how the podcast was born.
Thank you, Keisha, for showing up and stepping up in this case here. We're going to keep exploring. We're going to keep going further. I want to go to you, Alex and Meg. Like, what brought y'all into the game?
Well, and a lot of the impetus to make a choice on where to live happened for us very young, in terms of our lives. So, again, 22, 24 years old. And you watch other people position themselves in life to have an impact. And having an impact, I think, was something that was inherently interesting to us. As we got to know each other, we learned that we each had those aspirations. And I think that's one of the big reasons why we ended up together. We know, okay, you're here on Earth one time. You've got roughly one shot to kind of go and do something that's going to make a difference. But the actual act of making a difference is hard if you're not physically close to the spaces that you want to have an impact in. And so, we had spent some time city of Chicago, down in Nashville, Jackson, Mississippi, in neighborhoods that are really similar to ours. And we loved being there. When you say, you love being in a place, it's yes, you enjoy your time there. But you also are curious, why is it the way that it is? How was a neighborhood like ours or one in Jackson designed to be a certain way? And what are some of the external factors that keep it that way? And then, how can you be a part of pushing back on some of those things? And a lot of times it ends up being, very, very simple things, being a good neighbor, trying to be as kind and considerate and compassionate to everybody that you interact with. And so the mindset that, okay, we want to live our lives in that way, coupled with the physical location of where we are, gives us a lot of opportunities to try to do that on a regular basis.
And I'll just add, so Alex is really good at coming up with systems that make his life easier. Like he runs every day and he just does it first. And so I think when I look back, I'm like, he really just created a system where like he could be in a physical space, and like because of that, our family is in this physical space, and we can go outside and we can be able to shovel somebody's sidewalk that just doesn't have a shovel, or there's really easy things that we can be helpful to our neighbors by just being here. And that's just been a wonderful opportunity to be able to be helpful.
Yeah. And it sounds super basic, but we've had some really terrible neighbors in the past. And even just, an individual or a family that's steady and that will even be neutral, not even necessarily be positive, be negative, just be neutral. It's such a value in our neighborhood. 66% of the people in the neighborhood rent, and transiency is a huge issue here. And so stability is a real challenge. And so anytime you can offer stability, and that's great. That's one of the reasons why we have the rental properties, is because we can offer stable housing for an inexpensive rate, and keeps people around a lot, which is good for the neighborhood, builds community.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you said stability, I was thinking about it on like on behalf of you all. Like, oh, it'd be great if they're stable. But actually, what I hear you say is like you actually extend stability. You're like if, like to whatever extent we can, like let us do our part to help create some more stability in your world there.
Yeah, I wish that we were more stable, or not.
That's probably the reason why you're here on the Outliers Edge
Yeah.
podcast, right? Keisha, something you were there was something about what you said that really brought me in here, which was um, they just mentioned systems right now. And I'm thinking about this. You said, like, look, I'm doing this full time. You also, like, when you were talking about having to go to court, I was honestly thinking, I was like, how do you work life around that? How does that how does that all come together? And then you also have the podcast right now, and you stand for something in your podcast. You're talking about mindset, you're talking about law of attraction, but it was birthed through something that was incredibly important. I'm curious about like how you are like, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say, how do you manage it all? What are the systems you have in place? Maybe the better way of looking is like, how do you lead yourself through with all the different things that might be calling to you, while to still consistently show up for the people that you serve?
Yeah, good question. Because sometimes I ask myself that too.
Yeah, I can
Um,
see it.
I am a firm believer of having a good morning routine.
Hmm.
I'm also a huge, I'm huge into fitness. I've been into fitness for decades. So I have a very strict routine in the morning that consists of waking up early, meditation, exercise, and then just getting ready for the day. If I don't have my meditation and exercise in my day, it throws my entire day off. And I can tell you the only time I miss my morning routine is if I'm sick in bed. Outside of that, I'm, nourishing my mind, I'm nourishing my body. I try to eat as nutritious as I can with food because food is medicine. So I always make sure that my cup is filled first so I can fill everyone else's cup. And it's interesting because I'll go through these moments where I'm like, my cup is getting low and I can feel it. And so I know I got to pause and just take some time for myself and fill that back up. But I've gotten into this routine of just being able to keep my cup full and recognizing when I need to fill it up.
All right, so now I'm going to go to you, Outliers. Anyone that's listening right now, I want you to just do a cup check, right? See where you are, because one of the things that caught me, Keisha, is like you are able to see it in advance. You're like, I can recognize that my cup is getting low, and I think sometimes we put out without actually taking a chance to like look at it and say like, how are we doing? So, Outliers, you might do this every day. You might do this when on occasion, but this right now is your cup check. Check in with yourself right now and see where you are, and then ask yourself what it is that you would need to get back to full. And if you are full, ask yourself that you can play that game and see what you want to do with that. All right, Keisha. I'm gonna come to you. Like I like this. I like we're expanding on it. Meg, you talked earlier about systems here. I would go to Alex on it, but you said he already has a system, so I'm kind of curious about like the systems you put in place. How do you navigate it? Maybe it's not systems for you. Maybe there's another thing that you have here, but how do you navigate keeping all the things going on in your world?
I think, I mean, a lot like what Keisha said is, you have things that bring you joy. And, I was saying a little bit in the previous, not online that, I really like gardening. And so, I feel like there's another just wonderful opportunity that I get to do in the neighborhood, is that there's dozens of lots that we have helped create flowers. We've created garden beds through a nonprofit called We Got This. And that brings me so much joy, handing out flowers to people. It's an extra, and it's something not a lot of people in our neighborhood have. And so that's just been a wonderful opportunity to fill my cup, is to go outside, pick some flowers. And if there's somebody walking by, or if somebody, there's been quite a few deaths in our neighborhood. And so, there's been some tragedies. And so can I just go put some flowers on somebody's front porch, and they can know that I'm remembering their daughter, or, something like that. That really fills my cup. And so in the winter, I'm growing a lot of seeds in my basement, and I'm getting excited for what they're going to be in the spring and summer. And so that's just been a beautiful opportunity just to, go outside, look at flowers, and be able to pick some and give back a little bit.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. I live in California and I grew up on the East Coast, so I'm used to having a basement. I don't have a basement right now, and so you're talking about that, and that gets me thinking about one thing, and then the other side of it was just um, the fact you like growing seeds in the basement. What I hear from that is like using what you have, because I think about I haven't been to Wisconsin, but I think about Wisconsin winters. I've heard of
Mhm.
them. I moved to
Yeah.
California for a reason, and so but one of the things that I really am appreciating here is like regardless, you're gonna make your environment what you want to make it. I get that about you too. Like it's like you choose what's there, regardless of what the narrative might be, regardless of what people might think about it here. You are actively creating your environment on a regular basis. Is there anything either of you would like to say to that before I move on? And Keisha, I might come to you also on the same thing about how you create your environment, how you create your world around you, how you shaped it around you instead. Anything that comes to you, Megan or Alex?
Well, I mean, I living in a place where you are very different. You look different than the people that are around you. You have to be very careful because if I walked into an area and I started dictating what I thought should happen, really bad things happen really quickly. Not to me, but I create an environment that's then based on my own view of the world instead of trying to help lift up the people that are around me. And it can get um, you can end up skewing what you're trying to do. And so yeah, I mean we do, especially when we talk about We Got This, the nonprofit. um Meg and I, as part of the leadership team, we are just the conduit and the organizers of what other people want to do. We'll get 130, 140 kids to come out on a Saturday to work. And one kid said that he wanted to cut grass. And so we started cutting grass. And now we've got a group of 15 kids that'll go cut grass. And then next summer, we're looking at taking over city lots and them cutting grass. And so we try to keep it as organic as possible and just pay attention to when, we can use whatever resources that we have, tap into other people that have resources, and then try to make the visions of other people come out into reality.
Yeah, I really like this. And, Keisha, I'm so curious about it, but I want to call on one thing, which is like I remember working one of my first jobs. Someone came to me and said, Niiamah, like you're trying to push a whole lot of things onto people. What would happen
Yeah,
if you just waited for the pull? In what
right.
area are people actually trying to already do things? And then how can you just like lean into that and use your resources or
Mm-hmm.
use the resources we've made available to help make that possible? And when I think I hear that element of like, how do you
Yeah.
lean into the pool? Where oh, it's cutting grass, we're going to lean into that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I have 25 lawnmowers in my garage right now. Great.
This is the hidden cost, right? In some
Right.
way, shape, or form. It's like you hear us here, but like what it really takes to make this come through is 25 lawnmowers
Yeah.
in the garage. Keisha, anything come up for you in this part of the conversation? Doesn't have to, but just curious about like what's flowing through you right now.
I think the other is trying to find balance in our lives, right? Like when we are busy with so much on our plate, finding that balance is going to be key. And for me, I know, music is really big for me, and something that came into my awareness really just this past couple weeks is that there's such thing as sound therapy out in the world right now, and everyone has a different modality for the sound therapy. And for me, my sound therapy is music, and not just like low volume music. Like my stuff has to be bumping, high frequency, high bass. And it's that same system of the sound therapy that is therapeutic for me. So I always have to just make sure I'm balanced.
You getting me thinking right now about sometimes where I feel like in high like productivity and such, and I haven't really thought about sound therapy through that lens. So thank you for that. I'm gonna explore it. Um, so what I want to ask you all about here, I have this thing in mind around like activation and elevation. So for any outlier that's sitting there that's like waiting to be activated, and let me make sure I'm phrasing this properly. The people who are like people, the outliers we talk to, they're in the game. They're already playing it, but it's about that next level, activating into that next level, right? I'm curious because I've been finding this recently where people I talk to have a desire, have a goal that they want to get into play and to bring out to life. And without them actually being actively aware of it, they're already bringing it to life. So I'm curious for each of you here, like, where's a place where you either had a goal that you wanted to do, and if it helps, I can make that like make it real. Like for me, for a long time, I wanted to create a community, and I just couldn't see that I was like creating a community, or like I wanted to lead a movement. So I was always asking for like the beginner steps, like almost asking and waiting for someone to acknowledge that like what I was doing was actually being created, and it wasn't until like I crossed that step on like day five, and I spent year five still trying to get there. And so I'm curious about you all, like, what's something recently where you realize, like, in my words, I'm already ready, like that it's already happening. What's something that came up recently, and how did you discover it? What was the story behind that? Does anything come to mind for either for any of you?
I can go because something is actually in my mind with that. So since I started the podcast, one thing that I wanted to do was to create online programs and to be able to sell them. I was doing and I have been doing the one-on-one coaching, which that does take up a lot of time. And so it's that want, that desire of creating some type of online program, I've put it on the back burner and I keep putting it on the back burner. And then when I go to it, I tend to overcomplicate it. So most recently, especially if we are in, the last quarter of the year, I do have a goal to get a mini course, just a mini course. So I just got to start take that baby step into that direction. And my intention is to have it ready by, beginning of 2025.
Awesome. So Outliers, one of the cool things about podcasts is that it goes through time. It's like a time capsule. So by the time you are listening to this episode, right, it might actually be out into the world. So please go and follow Keisha and see what's up. We'll share some of the contact info and things like that at the end of the episode. It's also going to be in the show notes, so you can go over and head over right now. But I love these moments where it's like we talked about it and it didn't exist, and then by the time we came to it, it actually was there. So Outliers, like, check out, like he's just making moves. He's just making moves. Uh, Alex, Meg, anything come to you on it?
I feel like, Alex, you should share about I feel like previously you didn't have a contractor's license and now you do. And that process of now you can like make big changes with houses, and that's an exciting one. Because you had to,
I,
but
I like the teaser here. Alex, is there anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was going to share something totally different. But I mean, she's right. So, housing instability is a huge issue in our neighborhood. A lot of times, houses. The last house we bought for $35,000, which was the most expensive of the six houses. Which would tell you, houses here are very inexpensive, and there's a reason why they're very inexpensive. The land is devalued, and many of the homes haven't been cared for in dozens of years. And so, you're getting a house that really is teetering on whether or not it should be demolished. And a lot of that work does require a contractor's license. I've been doing it. Don't get mad at me, but I've been doing it without a contractor's license for a while now. But because it really should have that, and I really should be slightly more professional in that endeavor. I did do that, but you're right. Like nothing actually changed when I got the certificate in the mail or on my email. It was the same thing. I was just doing the same thing, but I had the license number to go along with it. I could pull a permit, which was great, but nothing actually changed. I didn't feel any better or any different. It just kind of happened. Can I tell the one that I was going to tell though? Is that okay?
Yeah, everything's okay in this space. Like the underlying thing is like Niiamah's gonna ask questions, but underneath everything is that people here are gonna show you who they are,
Okay.
and we get a chance to enjoy that. So Alex, please bring it.
Okay. And yes, the contractor part is fine, but um, for the nonprofit, we got this. So we get together as a board and we set a goal every November. Meg and I have been on the leadership team for 3 years. And one of the goals that we had was around like the number of kids that show up on a Saturday. There's 12 Saturdays in the summer. And the first year we averaged 25 kids that would show up, which is great. 25 kids is awesome. We're super happy about that. That following year, we set a goal to try to bring it up a little bit, and it was 65. this past year, we set a goal to try to average 85. And it was pretty obvious by the third week that like we're gonna crush this goal. And so we ended up 100. We averaged 112 kids, 4th through 12th graders coming out on a Saturday. And Niiamah, like there's money tied to that. Like we can have kids show up, kids can show up and whatever, but each kid gets paid $20. And so we set a goal to give out $20,000 to kids this past summer, and we ended up doing 30,000. And so there was definitely that moment where around the 3rd or 4th week where, I'm cursing to myself saying, we got to figure out how we're going to do this. But this is absolutely the best problem that we could ever have, that we've got more kids that want to show up and be a positive, productive member of the community. They go around and pick up the neighborhood because our neighborhood is illegally dumped on all the time. And so we picked up as a group 10,000 gallons of trash this summer, over 5,000 hours the kids put in. And so, just there was definitely a moment where I'm checking kids in and I'm saying to myself, holy shit, sorry if we can't swear on your podcast. We are crushing this. And it has nothing to do with her or I. We have built the thing that we were trying to build. And you're able to take a step back and just say, wow, that was incredible. This is just so lucky to be a part of that.
And I think mine is similar. At the beginning of the year, I said to myself, I want to I want to help create a more beautiful neighborhood. And we got this community garden, we were able to get, I think we have 10 different vacant lots, and we've been working to turn. We had, I think, 3 new vacant lots this year one of them was just a flower lot. And, I was able to, my team of 12 kids went around the neighborhood and planted flowers. We planted zinnias and dahlias and all sorts of wonderful things, wherever people would let us. And so we had, some elderly people that were like, sure, we'd love those types of flowers on our front areas. So it was a really neat opportunity, the last few weeks going around and just looking at the sunflowers that were coming up, or having kids just freak out over how beautiful a dahlia is. And, it was just a really neat opportunity to look back and think this space used to be a liability, and now it's an asset to the community with, some beautiful fruits and vegetables and flowers.
There's nothing cooler than the sunflower patch next to the liquor store. That's the best one.
I like the way y'all play. I like the way y'all play with this here. You brought up a couple things that got me thinking. One of them being like that moment where you're like, wait, the work that I was doing, it's panning out, right? And I love to keep playing with that because candidly, like I'm in the middle of that right now, where I'm like I'm building something, and we were talking about it earlier. Like, so I have a lot of conversations on the podcast. I'm building something around it, and there's this space before it all works out, then it works out. And then there's that like, oh crap, like it's really working. Like it's working even better than we thought. I'm curious how I want to play. If I can, I want to play in the space of asking you, Keisha, if anything like this has happened for you recently in the work that you do, and talk about like the before stage, and then the during, like when the transition happened, and then to what Alex has brought in, like what happens when your success actually grows faster than what you had actually anticipated. Is there anything that you want to share on that?
Yeah, so I can think back to just starting the podcast and, only having a few listeners. And when I started the podcast, the goal was never to get, a million listeners. That was never the goal. The goal was to have an impact on just one person and then build from there. So since the beginning to now, I've had that impact on multiple people, and I'll get DMs or I'll talk to people, face to face, and they'll tell me how, oh, I just listened to this episode of yours and it had an impact. And just that one singular conversation, like, lights me up. And so I never tried to think like too much of how many followers do I have? How many likes do I have? Like, it's never about that. And as long as I can stay focused on the true mission and just trying to help one person at a time, like that is what my podcast is about. That's what, that's why I show up every week and continue to grow the community and the audience. I mean, people will come at some point. I just don't ever want to get lost in like, well, I don't have enough people listening to me. I need more people and this and that. Like, it's never, ever going to be about that. Because when I have that one conversation with someone who I've had an impact on, like, that's why I do what I do. So that's what brings me joy when it comes to the podcast.
So, all right, we're going to start wrapping up here. I might be cutting it close with time, but there is a deep desire. I really appreciate all of you. I'm grateful you honored us with who you are being out in the world here. I would like to ask one question of each of you here, and then we'll have a wrap up. All right. The question I'd like to ask here is around what's a project that you're working on right now or working toward, or maybe it's a goal or a dream or a vision that you're working toward that like really excites you, but also really scares you. All right, I want to give like Outliers a chance to see like we talk about some of the things that have happened in the past, and like this is Outliers edge. So like let's go to what feels like an edge for you. What feels like something you're creating right now that is still in the progress here. Meg, anything come to mind for you?
Yeah, I feel like all I'm talking about right now is flowers, but it's the season of flowers. So I think something that really is my goal is to have the kids at the We Got This Garden create more flower spaces and then be able to sell their flowers and take them home the profits. And so it's been kind of in my mind, and I feel like we can do this. It's a next year project, but what we need to do to get there, and just what venues we can do this, and I think it's funny having a community garden. You want people to be able to come and take things, and so we always want the people in the community to be able to take whatever they want, whether that's flower bouquets or tomatoes or greens, whatever. And so just kind of thinking through it, that just means we need to grow more things. And so having more spaces and being able just to have more flowers in different areas, that's what we're gonna have to do next year. So it's gonna take some work, but I think we can do it.
Yeah, that hit me like Outliers. I think like I believe like more is more, and it's like okay, well, looks like the way to meet this challenge is to meet the challenge, and that's really quite fun. Alex, anything for you?
Yeah, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go to work on this house. It's two houses down from us. It used to be white. We call it the White House on the corner. So, White House on the corner was a nuisance property in the neighborhood that we bought right around this time last year. And the reason why it became a nuisance property is because it kept getting shot at. I think my son and I counted 16 bullet holes in the house. And so I'm in the process of renovating the entire thing, the outside, the inside. But the thing that I'm working towards is Meg said I like systems. I do like systems. I love a good system. I would love to be able to take the renovation of that building and then systematize that process to be able to do them faster. And so, I've set a goal of finishing it in X number of months. Next time around, I want to cut it down by about 2/3 or by about a third. And so that's something that I've been working on a lot is how can I take the work that I'm doing, turn it into something a little bit more efficient, but then also, is there a way to do maybe other work outside of that, and bring in other people, possibly people that I just, kids from the garden program, or just other people, from the neighborhood, to try to turn them on a little faster. So.
And Outliers, I hope you're hearing like the iteration involved here. Like
Yes.
it didn't start out perfect. Even for someone who loves
No.
systems, it's like let me just get it done, and then figure out how each time I do it, it can get better.
You said that way better. I would like to go to the next version of
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We'll play with it. Keisha, anything for you?
Yeah, so, I consider myself a healer. I'm a self-healer, and I love to be able to be part of people's healing journey. Outside of the podcast, as I mentioned earlier, sound therapy with music. So something that I'm currently developing within myself is my inner DJ. Like, I've loved music for decades and decades, and I was always the one who's made the playlist or burn a CD and bring it to the party and get the dancing crew going. And I also love to dance. So right now I'm working on being able to provide healing through music and dance to my community.
That's fantastic. Like I've never heard of inner DJ before. It like literally just lit me up. I was like, oh, what a cool idea. Like I can't wait to see how that continues to evolve. And I know we were also talking about like doing some different programs. I can't wait to see like if the inner DJ program comes in at some point, or at least it's like an activity about like the develop your own. Y'all are amazing. I want to leave here with making sure that outliers know how they can continue down the game with you. And outliers in a bit, I'm going to ask each of them for their insight from this conversation. The insight here is something that you learned for yourself here. It's not like I call an outside being something we try and tell outliers. I think we've covered that. I'm really curious what if anything you got from this conversation. Your insight might be I have no insight, which is totally fine. And outliers, I'm going to invite you to take some time right now to reflect on an insight that you got from this conversation. What's one thing that you want to leave this conversation taking away with you? And then go tell someone. Tell someone about that insight that you got and share this episode with them so that they too can have a thought, an insight, a new way of looking at things and to be a part of this conversation with us, right? Just think of one person and share that episode with them and everything will grow from there. I feel really great about that. So why don't we start with you, Keisha? If you can share with us what's an insight that you're taking away from this conversation and how can outliers go deeper in the journey with you?
Yeah, so community is what I'm hearing so much about, and it just further gives me more energy to continue down my path. And without community, we don't have anything, right? And especially the work that I do, it's important for me to share that with people because so many people that I'm even currently around now in my community, don't practice self-love or don't see the limitless possibilities that are within themselves. And I feel like my purpose is to help bring that out in people. And right now you can find me, I'm on Instagram, I'm at Baddie Activation. That's probably the best place to get a hold of me.
Nice, nice. That's two D's and I and an E, correct? All right, cool, cool, cool. Let's go with Alex, and then we'll go with Meg, and then we'll close for today.
I just love the idea of a lot of times, if whether or not you consider yourself an outlier, a lot of times being an outlier is a bad thing. It's not great. I taught math for a long time. Outliers are the things that you would ignore in your data set. And so I just love that you celebrate outliers and then um, you try to glean some insights on what makes them tick or why they do what they do. And so even just forcing me to think about how I might see myself in that way, or hearing Meg talk about it, or hearing Keisha talk about it, or some of the other guests that you had. I just really appreciated that. Just the idea that outliers could be celebrated. That's a newer concept to me. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and plug our podcast real quick, if that's okay. All right. So it's 53206 cast. You can find it, wherever you people find your podcasts. But the website for We Got This is wegotThisMKE.com. Anything that's donated goes literally directly to 4th through 12th graders in our neighborhood for making their neighborhood a better place to grow up. So if there is somebody that's listening that would like to donate, please go to wegotThisMKE.com. Meg's a web designer, makes it super easy to donate on there. And then I got one more thing. This is crazy, but I wrote a book, but I just did an audio book version as a podcast feed. The book is called Bad Neighborhoods. Bad, like bad neighborhoods. And you can find that on Spotify, iTunes, and all that. And it's all free. Just if you are interested in listening to it, go for it. I'm sorry if it's not very good.
Thank you for creating and bringing it out there. Meg, bring us home.
Yeah, so I think just listening to each one of you guys, I think talking through being an outlier with other people around you, talking through your hopes and dreams and talking through where you want to see the world, the questions you have. I think just, like Keisha said, that community, like we can all create a community and we can all create the community that we want by just communicating and bringing things up and exploring new things. So I just thank you guys for this conversation. It's been really great. And I can be found. I'm on Instagram a lot. Surprise, I put a lot of my flowers on Instagram, and I'm at Meg Bruzan.
Perfect. You all are amazing. Thank you for playing the game that you play. Thank you for sharing it with us here. Thank you for being outliers. And my thing is, if you're already an outlier, why not just take it all the way out of the data set? Like, if you're already going to be considered, just how do we keep lifting each other up? Thank you for lifting each of us up and the people that you serve. I appreciate you. And here's my ask of you, like, just continue to be you on purpose. Journey on.